I woke up with a hangover and a text that ruined my life, or at least that's what I thought. Do you remember what you said last night? God. No. My best friend Emily was the sender. My beautiful, infuriating, sweet as sunshine Emily, the girl who'd been my shadow since high school, my roommate in college, and the keeper of every secret. Except the one that slipped out of my mouth after 6 shots of tequila. I sat up on my bed, clutching my pounding head. My phone screen burned my retinas. I think I'm in love with you. Those were the words I'd apparently said. Out loud. To her. My stomach turned. The memory flickered like a broken film reel, flashes of laughter. Her hand in mine, her hair falling over her shoulders, my lips way too close to hers. And then black. Now I was here hungover, humiliated, and hopelessly in love. Emily knocked on my door before I could even think of a plan. Hey, she said, stepping in. Her voice was soft, cautious, the way you talk to a wounded animal. How's your head? I managed a laugh that came out more like a groan. Feels like it's being used as a drum in a marching band. She smiled, sitting at the edge of my bed. The sunlight hit her hair just right, soft gold, warm, too perfect for a Monday morning. I brought coffee, she said, offering me a mug. You might need it before we talk about last night. The words last night landed like stones in my chest. Emily, you said you were in love with me, she interrupted, her tone neither angry nor teasing. Just searching. Do you remember that? I stared at her. My mind screamed at me to laugh it off, to say it was the alcohol, the moment, the mistake. But the way she looked at me, patient, scared, and curious, made lying impossible. I do, I whispered. And it wasn't the alcohol. Silence filled the room. The kind that stretches until your heartbeat becomes the only sound. Then Emily let out a slow breath, eyes glistening. You've been holding that in for a while, huh? I nodded. She smiled, a sad, trembling smile. God, Lily. Why didn't you tell me sooner? It's funny how the world can shift in a second. How a confession meant to ruin everything can suddenly make it clearer. That morning, over cold coffee and scrambled emotions, we talked. For the first time, really talked. Emily told me she'd always wondered why I never dated, why I'd look away whenever she mentioned her ex-boyfriends. I told her how I'd fallen for her slowly through movie nights and road trips, through shared hoodies and inside jokes, through the way she always touched my arm when she laughed. And for a while we just sat there, both afraid to say the one thing hanging between us. Finally, she said, I don't know what this means yet, but I don't want to pretend it didn't happen. Her hand found mine. Warm, steady, terrifyingly right. The days that followed were complicated. We went through our routines as if nothing had changed, but everything had. Every glance lingered too long. Every joke felt loaded with something new. When she brushed against me in the kitchen, my heart jumped like it had a mind of its own. And at night I lay awake replaying every moment, wondering if she could feel the same thing too. Then one evening it happened again. We were watching an old rom-com, the kind where the girl runs through the rain for love. Emily was half asleep, her head on my shoulder. The air between us felt fragile, trembling with unspoken words. When she looked up at me, I could see it in her eyes, the same fear, the same hope. Lily, she whispered, voice trembling, if I kiss you right now, will it ruin us? I could barely breathe. Only if you stop, I said. She kissed me, and in that moment the world stopped spinning. But love, real love, isn't a fairy tale. It's not all sunlight and soft kisses. Because once we crossed that line, there was no going back. Suddenly, every tiny thing carried weight. A missed text, a change in tone, the way she'd hesitate before holding my hand in public. She was scared of what people would think, of what this meant for her. And I was terrified of losing her. We fought, sometimes over nothing, sometimes over everything. You're making this harder than it has to be, she'd say. I just want you to stop hiding us, I'd reply. I'm trying, Lily, she'd cry, and I'd see the pain in her eyes, the same pain that was in mine. But no matter how hard it got, I couldn't regret a single moment. Because for every tear there was also laughter. For every silence, a kiss that made it all make sense again. It took months of confusion, fear, and learning how to love each other in a world that didn't always understand before Emily finally looked at me one morning and said, I don't care anymore. If this is wrong, then I don't want to be right. She kissed me in the middle of a crowded cafe, And the world didn't end. It began. The first few weeks after Emily's public kiss felt like walking on sunlight. Everything that once felt impossible suddenly seemed effortless. We'd wake up tangled together, laugh about the coffee machine always breaking, and sneak kisses between classes. It was ridiculous, messy, beautiful, and terrifyingly real. But happiness, I've learned, has an expiration date when it's built on fragile courage. It started small. Whispers in the dorm hallway. A classmate's glance lingering too long. Someone joking, "So, are you two like a thing?" With that smug smirk people wear when they think they've figured out your secret. Emily would laugh it off. I would smile. But inside something twisted tight. She started pulling her hand away in public again. Just little things at first, when we passed friends on campus, when we grabbed lunch at the cafe. I told myself it didn't matter, that she needed time. But time, it seemed, was making her walls higher, not lower. One night, we were walking home from a late movie. The air was cold enough to see our breath. I reached for her hand instinctively, the way I always did, and she stepped away, pretending to fix her scarf. It shouldn't have hurt as much as it did. But it did. God, it did. I said quietly. She froze. "What? Are you embarrassed of me?" Her eyes widened like I'd slapped her. "What? No. Lily, you just what?" I snapped. "You can kiss me when we're alone. Tell me you love me when no one's around, but when we step outside, suddenly you forget I exist?" She stared at me, eyes glassy. "It's not like that." "Then what is it like?" She hesitated, looking away. "I'm scared, okay? My parents, my church, my friends, they wouldn't understand. I need time." Time. That word again. It felt like a blade wrapped in silk. I swallowed hard. "I've given you time. But every time you hide, it feels like you're hiding me." We stood there, the silence between us louder than our breaths. A car passed, headlights slicing through the night. "Lily," she whispered, "please don't make me choose between you and everything I've ever known." My throat burned. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe you already have. She looked at me, then really looked, and I saw the war inside her. Fear, love, confusion. She didn't say another word. She turned, wrapped her coat tighter, and walked away. I didn't sleep that night. The apartment felt too big, too empty. Every room still smelled like her, like vanilla shampoo and lavender lotion. Her jacket hung on the back of the chair. Her book lay open on the coffee table. Her laugh still echoed in my head. I thought about deleting her from everything, my photos, my playlists, my life, but every attempt ended in tears. Because the truth was simple. I didn't know how to exist without her anymore. Days passed. We barely texted. When we did, it was short, polite, and painful. Then one morning I found a note under my door. Her handwriting. My heart stopped. "Meet me at the park at 4. Please." It was raining when I got there. The kind of steady, cold rain that soaks through your bones. Emily stood under a tree, her hair damp, her hands shaking. "Thanks for coming," she said softly. "I wasn't sure I should." "I know." For a long time we just stood there. The park was empty. The air smelled like wet earth and regret. Finally, she said, "I don't want to lose you." Then stopped pushing me away. "I don't know how," she whispered, voice breaking. "I've spent my whole life trying to be what everyone wanted me to be. Straight, perfect, safe. And now," she looked up at me, eyes full of tears. "Now the only thing I want is you. And that terrifies me." My anger melted like snow. I said softly, stepping closer. "You don't have to be brave for anyone else. Just be brave for us." She closed her eyes, tears mixing with the rain. "I'm trying." "I know." And I pulled her into my arms. We stood there, soaked to the skin, clinging to each other as if the world might split open. And maybe it did, just a little. Because when she kissed me through the rain, it wasn't secret or scared. It was a promise. Things didn't magically fix themselves after that. But they began to change. Slowly. Tenderly. Emily started being more open, not loud, not defiant, just honest. She held my hand at a coffee shop. She introduced me as someone special to her friends. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. Her parents still didn't know. That was the next mountain. When Thanksgiving came, she invited me to her family's house in upstate New York. I hesitated, mostly because she said, "Just as a friend." But I went. Because love makes you do stupid, hopeful things. Her parents were kind, old-fashioned people with warm smiles and cold expectations. Her mom hugged me, called me sweetheart, and asked if I had a boyfriend. I laughed nervously and said, "Not exactly." Emily shot me a warning glance across the dinner table. It was like walking on a frozen lake, one wrong move and everything would crack. After dinner, Emily found me in the kitchen drying dishes. "Sorry about my mom," she whispered. "She just doesn't." "No," I said flatly. She nodded. "When are you going to tell her?" "I don't know." "Em, you can't keep pretending." Her voice sharpened. "You think it's easy for me? You think I can just drop a bomb like that over pumpkin pie?" I sighed. "I'm not asking you to drop a bomb. I'm asking you to stop hiding me like a secret you're ashamed of." Her eyes filled with tears. "I'm not ashamed of you." "Then prove it." Her lower lip trembled. "Not tonight." "Then when?" "Lily, please," she whispered. "Don't make me choose right now." And I realized maybe love wasn't about demanding bravery. Maybe it was about waiting until the person you loved was ready to fight beside you. That night, I lay awake in her childhood bedroom, staring at the glow-in-the-dark stars on her ceiling. I could hear her breathing next to me, slow and steady. I wanted to reach out, to hold her, to tell her that no matter how scared she was, I wasn't going anywhere. But I also knew that love needed space, the kind of space that doesn't mean distance but patience. So instead, I whispered into the darkness, "I love you." She murmured, half asleep, "I know." And that was enough. Months passed. The world turned warmer again. Spring came, and with it small miracles. Emily got a job offer in Boston. I got accepted into a graduate program in Chicago. We celebrated with takeout and cheap champagne, but the joy tasted bittersweet. "What are we going to do?" she asked one night, lying beside me on the couch. "I don't know," I said honestly. "We'll figure it out." But deep down I wasn't sure we would. We tried long distance for a while. Calls every night, texts every morning. But slowly things slipped. Missed calls. Delayed replies. Time zones turned into walls. Until one evening she said, "Lily, I don't think I can do this anymore." The line went quiet. "Are you breaking up with me?" "No," she said softly. "I'm just letting you go before we break each other." My chest felt like it was caving in. "Em, please, I love you," she said, voice cracking. "But I need to find out who I am without hiding, without running. And maybe one day when I'm brave enough, I'll find my way back to you." And then she hung up. Grief has a strange texture. It's not sharp like heartbreak, it's heavy, slow. A quiet ache that sits inside your ribs. For months I moved through life like a ghost. Coffee, work, sleep, repeat. But slowly pain turned into something else. Understanding, maybe. Growth. I learned to breathe again. I started painting, something I hadn't done since college. I met new people, traveled, laughed again. Still, every sunset reminded me of her. Every song we used to sing made me wonder if she still thought of me too. Then, one summer evening 2 years later, I got a postcard. It was from Boston. A watercolor of the Charles River. No return address, just handwriting I knew by heart. I finally told my parents. They didn't take it well. But I'm free. I hope you are too. I cried right there on my apartment floor. Not because I was sad, but because I finally understood what love really meant. It wasn't about owning or proving or even staying. It was about growing, even if it meant apart. 6 months later, fate or maybe stubborn love brought us back together. A mutual friend's wedding in New York. I wasn't going to go, but something told me I should. And there she was, standing across the room in a pale blue dress, her hair longer, her smile softer. She looked like peace. When our eyes met, the world went quiet. She crossed the room slowly, nervously. "Hi," she said. "Hi," I whispered. "You look good." "So do you." She laughed, that same familiar laugh that had once been my favorite sound. We talked for hours, catching up like old friends who had once been something more. When the music slowed, she held out her hand. "Dance with me." And for the first time in a long time, I didn't hesitate. As we swayed under the golden lights, she leaned in and whispered, "I never stopped loving you." "I know," I said softly. "Neither did I." She smiled, eyes glistening. "Then maybe. This time we start again. No secrets. No fear." And when our lips met again, It wasn't a beginning or an ending. It was everything in between: forgiveness, growth, and the kind of love that survives even when it breaks. The night after the wedding, I couldn't sleep. My hotel room felt too still, too full of ghosts. Every laugh from the hallway sounded like her. Every hum of the city outside reminded me of all the nights we used to fall asleep to the sound of traffic, dreaming about futures we never thought we'd deserve. But when my phone buzzed at 2 a.m., I didn't even have to check who it was. "Are you awake?" I smiled. Of course I was. "Meet me?" She sent again. "Rooftop." My heart raced the way it used to when I was 21 and hopelessly in love. Only now I was 26, still hopeless but maybe a little wiser. The rooftop was quiet when I got there. The city below glowed with 1,000 tiny lights, and the air smelled faintly of rain. Emily stood by the edge, barefoot, holding her heels in one hand and a paper cup of champagne in the other. "Hey," she said softly. "Hey," I replied. For a moment we just looked at each other. No explanations. No apologies. Just recognition. She handed me the cup. "I saved you the last of the wedding champagne. Figured you'd need it more than I do." "Still the thoughtful one," I said, smiling faintly. She chuckled. "Still the stubborn one." Guilty. We drank in silence, watching the lights of New York blink like constellations. Finally, she broke the silence. "It's strange, isn't it? How everything changes, but somehow we end up right back where we started. Except we're not the same people anymore," I said. "No," she agreed softly. "We're better versions. Stronger, maybe. Or just more tired." That made me laugh, that small bittersweet laugh you only share with someone who's broken your heart and still feels like home. She turned to me then, serious. "Lily, I need to say something." I nodded. "When I left, it wasn't because I stopped loving you. It was because I didn't know how to love myself with you around. I was terrified of the person I saw when I was with you, brave, honest, vulnerable. I wasn't ready for her yet." Her voice trembled, but she didn't look away. "And I hurt you in the process. I know that. I replay it all the time, the things I said, the things I didn't say. I'm sorry. For all of it." Tears stung my eyes before I could stop them. "Emily," I whispered. "I used to hate you for leaving. Then I hated myself for not being enough for you to stay. But I get it now. You had to find yourself. And so did I." She smiled, eyes glistening. "You did. You really did." I shrugged, wiping my cheeks. "Yeah. Turns out, I'm actually kind of okay on my own." She laughed. "Of course you are. You always were. I was just too scared to see it." The wind picked up, brushing a strand of hair across her face. I reached out without thinking and tucked it behind her ear. My fingers lingered there, against her skin, just long enough for her to close her eyes and lean into the touch. "I'm staying in Boston now," she said after a while. "Got a new apartment, new job. A new start, I guess." "That's good," I said. "You deserve that." She hesitated. "There's a rooftop garden outside my building. It's quiet, pretty. You'd love it." I smiled. "Are you inviting me or just bragging?" "Inviting," she said softly. "If you ever want to visit, I might take you up on that." Her lips curved into a hopeful grin. "I hope you do." We stood there in silence again, not the awkward kind, but the kind that means everything's been said. For now. Before we left, she hugged me, a real hug, tight and trembling. And when she pulled back, she whispered, "You'll always be my what if, Lily." I smiled sadly. Maybe we still get to find out. 6 months later, Boston in autumn looked like a painting. The leaves turned gold and crimson, the air smelled like cinnamon and city rain, and the Charles River shimmered like glass. I hadn't planned to see her again. Not because I didn't want to, but because I was afraid. Afraid that seeing her would reopen wounds that had finally healed. But then one morning I got an email from a local gallery. "Dear Lily, we're pleased to inform you that your artwork, Rainlight, has been selected for exhibition at our fall showcase." My hand shook as I read it. Rainlight, the painting I'd made 2 years ago, was of 2 women standing in the rain, holding each other as the world blurred around them. It was us. The exhibition was in Boston. When I arrived, the gallery buzzed with low conversation, the soft sound of jazz, and the scent of wine and oil paint. My heart pounded as I stepped through the crowd, half proud, half terrified. And then I saw her. Emily. She was standing in front of my painting, her eyes fixed on it, her expression unreadable. She looked different, calmer somehow, the kind of peace that comes after storms. When she turned and saw me, her lips parted in quiet shock. "You're here. I could say the same about you," I said with a small smile. "I didn't know it was yours," she said, glancing at the painting again. "I saw it in the program and thought, no, it couldn't be. But it is." Her voice softened. "It's beautiful. Thank you." She studied it for a moment longer, then looked back at me. "You still paint us the way I remember, like we were the only two people in the world. Weren't we?" She smiled. "Maybe we still are." We left the gallery together that night. Walked through the city like old times, talking about everything and nothing, her new apartment, my work, how we both still hated small talk and loved late-night coffee. The conversation flowed easily, like it had never stopped. When we reached her building, she paused by the door. "Do you want to come up? I mean, just to see the rooftop garden. It's kind of our place now." I hesitated only a second. "Yeah, I'd like that." The rooftop was everything she said it would be: strings of warm lights, planters full of herbs and flowers, a wooden bench overlooking the skyline. "This is beautiful," I said. She nodded. "It helps me breathe." We stood there for a while, looking out over the city. Then she turned to me, eyes shining. "Lily, I don't want to be your what if anymore." My heart skipped. "What do you mean?" "I mean," she took a breath, "I'm done running. I'm done being scared. I've told my parents. My friends know. I finally stopped hiding from myself. And if there's even the smallest chance we can try again, really try, I want that." For a second I couldn't move. Couldn't think. All I could do was look at her, at this woman who had once broken my heart and was now standing here, asking to piece it back together with trembling hands. "Are you sure?" I whispered. She nodded, tears glistening. "For the first time in my life, yes." I stepped closer until we were barely an inch apart. "Then let's not waste any more time." And when our lips met, it wasn't the wild, desperate kiss of first love. It was something softer, deeper, the kind of kiss that says I found my way back. The months that followed felt like a second chance written in light. We built a life that wasn't perfect, but it was ours. Mornings with coffee on the rooftop. Lazy Sundays with music and paint on our fingers. Arguments about laundry and dinner plans that always ended in laughter. Her parents took time, a lot of time, but they eventually called. Her mom sent a Christmas card that read, "We're learning. Thank you for loving our daughter." I cried when I read it. So did Emily. We didn't need grand gestures or promises anymore. We just needed presence. And that was enough. One evening, as the sun dipped below the skyline, Emily handed me a small box. "What's this?" I asked. She grinned. "Just open it." Inside was a delicate silver ring, simple and beautiful. "It's not a proposal," she said quickly. "It's a promise that no matter where life takes us next, even if we change, even if things get messy, I'll keep choosing you. Every damn day." I slipped it on, tears welling. "You know that's the most romantic thing anyone's ever said to me, right?" She smiled. "Good. Because I meant it." I kissed her then under the same golden lights that had witnessed our reunion, and I knew, with absolute certainty, that love had finally found its home. Years later, when people asked how we met, we'd just laugh. "After a drunk night and a very bad confession," I'd say. "And the best mistake of my life," she'd add. And it was true. Because sometimes love doesn't begin in the right place or time. Sometimes it begins with chaos, fear, and a stupid drunken confession. But if it's real, if it's meant, it always finds its way back. Always. The older I get, the more I realize that love doesn't arrive all at once. It grows in small, quiet moments. The ones you almost overlook. The mornings where you share coffee half asleep. The nights when you argue over something silly and end up laughing halfway through. The way she looks at you across a crowded room and you still feel that same electricity you did years ago. Emily and I have been together for almost 10 years now. Sometimes, when I wake up and see her curled beside me, hair a mess, lips parted in the soft rhythm of sleep, I still can't believe we made it here. There was no fairy tale wedding, no dramatic declarations under the stars. Just two women who decided again and again to stay. To choose love even when it was difficult. To grow not apart but alongside each other. Boston has become our home in every sense of the word. Our apartment sits above a small bookstore we both love. Every morning I hear her humming from the kitchen, making coffee while I feed the plants on the windowsill. There's a peace here I never thought I'd know, a peace that comes from knowing you don't have to hide anymore. Emily works as a counselor now, helping teens who feel lost in their own identities. She says it's her way of paying it forward, giving others the compassion she once denied herself. I see her come home after a long day, her shoulders heavy, her heart full, and I realize just how far she's come. As for me, I still paint. My studio's small but bright, filled with the smell of turpentine and the soft crackle of old records. My work has started to get noticed, a few exhibitions here and there, but the best compliment I've ever received came from Emily herself. She once stood in front of a canvas of mine, a storm of colors shaped into two silhouettes holding each other, and said, "You paint the way love feels." That was enough. Sometimes we take walks through the city, hands entwined, not caring who sees. We pass college students who remind us of who we once were, afraid, uncertain, desperate to fit in. I often wonder if they look at us and see hope, or maybe just two ordinary women who've learned to be brave. The world has changed since the night I drunkenly confessed my love to her. Society's louder now, kinder in some ways, crueler in others. But every time we walk together, I feel like we're part of that change, small, steady proof that love can outlast fear. One evening, as the sun melted into gold over the rooftops, Emily called out to me from the balcony. "Lily, come here," she said, her voice soft but insistent. I walked out, wiping paint from my hands. She was sitting cross-legged on the old wooden floor, holding a small photo album. "What's that?" I asked. "Found it while cleaning the closet," she said with a nostalgic grin. "Our history." I sat beside her, and we opened it together. The first page was a picture from college, me with my wild curls and nervous smile, her with a beer in hand and that unstoppable energy that had always drawn people in. We were leaning into each other, laughing at something off camera. "God, we were babies," I said, laughing. "Terrified babies," she corrected. "You can literally see me pretending to be straight in this photo." I burst out laughing. "Yeah, you really sold it." We flipped through years of memories, blurry selfies, road trips, rainy days, birthdays spent eating store-bought cake on the floor. And then near the end we reached the first photo after we'd found our way back. It was from that rooftop night, the one where she told me she didn't want to be my what if anymore. I remember setting the camera on the ledge, turning the timer on, and capturing that moment without thinking. The picture showed us holding each other, city lights sparkling behind us, eyes closed, lips almost touching. You could feel everything in it, all the pain, the hope, the forgiveness. Emily traced the photo with her finger. That was the night everything started to feel real again. "It was," I said quietly. "That was the night I stopped being scared." She looked at me, her eyes soft. "You were never really scared. You just carried both of us until I caught up." I smiled, my chest tightening. "Maybe, but you found your way back. That's what matters." Later that night, after the dishes were done and the lights dimmed, she crawled into bed beside me and whispered, "Do you ever wonder what our lives would be like if I hadn't texted you that night? If we just drifted apart forever?" "Every now and then," I admitted. "But I think somehow, even in another life, we'd still find each other. Maybe not the same way, but we would." She smiled into my shoulder. "I like that thought." "Me too." We fell asleep holding hands, something so simple, yet still grounding after all these years. 2 months later, I had an art show downtown, my biggest one yet. The theme was becoming. It wasn't just about us, but we were in it, woven through every brushstroke. There were paintings of rain, of light through windows, of hands reaching and finally finding. I wanted people to see what love looked like when it wasn't perfect, when it was raw, growing, human. When the show opened, the gallery buzzed with chatter and champagne. Emily walked beside me, her arm looped through mine, her presence calm and steady. When we reached the final painting, she stopped. It was titled After the Rain. It showed 2 women in their 30s sitting on a rooftop garden, our rooftop, with the city fading behind them. The world was soft, golden, at peace. Emily's voice trembled. "That's us." "It is," I said quietly. She turned to me. "You know, for years I thought love was supposed to be fireworks, loud, intense, impossible to ignore. But this," she gestured around us at the painting, at the quiet crowd admiring it. "This is better. This is real." I took her hand. Yeah, this is home. A few weeks after the exhibition, life fell back into its soft rhythm. Mornings, laughter, the smell of coffee and oil paint. Sometimes I'd catch her humming while brushing her hair, or dancing clumsily to old music while cooking. One Sunday morning, as the sunlight spilled through the window, I watched her reading the newspaper, glasses sliding down her nose, her bare feet tapping against the floor. And just like that, in the middle of such an ordinary moment, I felt that same rush I'd felt all those years ago, the night I first told her I loved her. I realized then that love doesn't fade with time. It changes shape, softens, deepens. It becomes quieter but no less powerful. It becomes the air you breathe. That afternoon, we went for a walk along the river. The trees were glowing with autumn again, just like the first time she'd held my hand in public. As we reached the bridge, Emily stopped and leaned against the railing, her eyes glinting in the sunlight. "You know," she said softly, "there's one thing I never thanked you for." "What's that?" "For loving me even when I didn't deserve it." I shook my head. "You always did. You just didn't believe it yet." She smiled, that slow, familiar smile that still made my heart flutter. "You're still the poet in this relationship." "Maybe," I said, grinning. "But you're still my muse." She laughed, nudging my shoulder. "God, you're cheesy. And you love it." "Yeah," she admitted, looking at me with that same tender awe. "I do." When we got home, the sky had turned soft pink, and the air smelled like rain. Emily poured 2 glasses of wine and handed me one. "To us," she said, raising her glass. "To us," I echoed. We clinked glasses, and for a moment, everything felt suspended, as if the universe had paused just to let us exist. In that stillness, I thought about the girl I used to be, the one who woke up hungover and terrified after a drunken confession, the one who thought she'd ruined everything. If I could tell her one thing, it would be this: you didn't ruin anything. You began it. Later, as night settled in, Emily rested her head on my lap, her fingers tracing idle circles on my wrist. "Lily," she murmured, eyes half closed, "if you could live one day of our life all over again, which would it be?" I smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "The day I told you I loved you." She laughed softly. "Even though you were drunk out of your mind?" "Especially because of that. It took tequila to tell the truth." She grinned, her eyes glowing with that familiar warmth. "You've always been braver than me." "Maybe, but you've always been worth it." Her laughter faded into quiet. "We've come a long way, huh?" "Yeah," I said, kissing her forehead. "And I'd do it all again." Outside, the city lights shimmered. Inside, our home was filled with soft music, warm air, and the steady heartbeat of something that had taken years to build but would last a lifetime. And as I looked down at her, my best friend, my partner, my once and forever love, I realized something simple and profound. Sometimes the best love stories aren't the ones that start with perfection. They're the ones that begin with a mistake, a confession, and the courage to keep choosing each other, even when it's hard, even when it hurts. Love isn't about the grand moments. It's about staying. And we did. Through fear, through growth, through every sunrise and storm, we stayed. And that, I think, is what love really means. Not forever. Just always. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe to get notifications about next videos.